blazing aura to incinerate the demon lord out of existence. He was the incarnation of the guardian legend, who single-handedly repelled the entire demon lord's army 1,000 years into the past. But after pulverizing the entire army with his divine lance, the demon lord thought the monkey was amusing, and backstabbed Shu Tian, forever throwing the 6 realms in chaos and discord. With Buddhism itself dissolving, however, Shu Tian scattered his spirit into 72 pieces across the cosmos. But the cataclysms would continue devastating the human realm. So when Jen saw their home was about to collapse, he told his brother to shut his worthless fucking mouth, and began carrying the useless burden before the roof collapsed and ended their miserable lives. At the same time, their father narrowly avoided the pillar's collapse before landing on his feet, facing the demon by parrying his chains until Asmodeus destroyed the ground underneath, and smashed Anli into a pillar that collapsed on his body. However, Jen swore that he would help his father, but as the demon leapt to end their lives, Anli protected his worthless burdens, and stunned Asmodeus before throwing the retarded morons onto the top of the highest pillar, blocking the beast's blow before releasing the chains in his staff, and restrained the demon to drag him away, until he kneed his skull to gain the upper ground. As he tried suffocating him, Asmodeus destroyed his weapon, but Anli shot them down to surround the demon before activating the chains of heaven, commanding the surrounding pillars to morph into a fist that pulverized Asmodeus underneath. His brain-dead son thought his father was amazing, but Anli told Jen to run until they entered an overgrown area. After exploring the mysterious cave for 2 hours, they arrived at the ancient relic of the deities, where Anli began throwing up some gang signs to release vines that were concealing 2 swords. As he commanded Jen to raise one of them, a golden aura emanated before their eyes, and the god of war's remnant levitated into the air. His father revealed that this would awaken the god dormant within Rio, and that it was his destiny to one day save the world. But when they felt the cave collapsing, they began running away while the secret charms activated, until they reached a bridge connecting to the center of a volcano. However, Anli noticed something was off as the ceiling collapsed, and Asmodeus smashed his face onto the ground. Even so, Anli used his magic to distract the beast, until he locked his legs to escape his grasp, and begged the heavens to lend them his power. All around the demon, sigils began releasing an aura that imprisoned the beast, throwing him into the lava. From the dust, Jen was glad to see his father was still alive. But a hand stabbed through his chest, and a hot girl revealed that she had waited 1,000 years for this day. As Anli's life was about to end, however, he told Jen to protect his useless brother, releasing the forbidden teleportation spell to send them across the stars. But as the demon princess nearly killed Jen, their souls ascended towards the sky, and Anli hoped his children would survive in the realm of demi-humans. 13 years had passed since then, and on Rio's 14th birthday, Jen commenced his Demon Slayer graduation ritual, releasing his mana to surround Rio with the power of the gods, until his seal was opened and the mana was absorbed. So with the gods having accepted him, Jen went on to reveal the relic his father left behind, but Rio wondered what it was. Just then, Gandalf began screaming for help and begged the boys to save his daughter from the cat demons, promising to pay them with his life savings. However, Jen thought he was a scammer, so he told Dumbledore that he'll be attending his daughter's funeral. But when the pouch fell and a golden bell came out, he realized it was the same one the demon mistress used, and screamed at the man to reveal where he found it. So the man told them about an abandoned village where everyone disappeared in the mist. But when Jen turned around, he noticed that his brother had disappeared because he was still a useless burden. Just then, a hot cat girl nearly slashed his head off, and kept disappearing into the mist before his strikes would connect. But as she mocked him for being powerless, Jen began spinning until a tornado dissolved the fog around them. So the fox girl begged him to spare her life, swearing to do anything he desired. However, Jen thought her body was disgusting, but as soon as he turned his back, she promised to remember his kindness, and leapt to end his life. In that moment, he activated his reverse blades to slash her down. But before her life would end, she revealed that her brother would be killing his. At the same time, Rio narrowly blocked an attack from the cat demon, and Jen decided this would be his brother's last trial before graduating. As the demon cast air slashes towards Rio, he narrowly evaded them to close the distance. But as the spirit materialized from above, Rio cast him away, and used his staff to break the bones in his arm. However, the demon vanished as it began moving faster than his eyes could perceive, and destroyed his staff. But as Jen was about to save his brother, Rio's staff emitted a golden light, and as he grabbed it, he threw the divine staff towards the demon. The radiance of its activation alerted the 6 spectral realms that the god of war, for the first time in 1,000 years, had been reborn. As the cat realized that Rio had managed to launch the staff before losing consciousness, he tried to escape, but Jen appeared at that moment, threatening to end his life as he asked him what the golden bell was. As he rang it once more, the effects of the bell began forcing the demon to confess, revealing that the bell prophesied the war god's revival, and that he needed to kill the demon slayer to extract the soul fragment away. Just then, the ball began flying on its own until it went deep inside of his throat, so Jen tried running to protect his unconscious brother, before a golden light exploded. At the same time, the fairies realized that the time had finally arrived, and teleported into the human realm. By the time the sun rose, Jen congratulated his brother on becoming a demon slayer, and awakening his special weapon. But as Rio went to grab it, the divine staff shrunk back to its original size. However, the fairies commanded them to hand it over, but although Jen had suffered internal bleeding after the explosion, He unsheathed his blades to slash them down, but the girl knocked him away, threatening to incinerate him if he moved. But the second fairy teleported between them, saying they were on his side. So as he cast a healing spell onto Gen's arm, the man revealed that they were sent to retrieve the war god's iron, and introduced himself as Sero, while the dumbass pig next to him was Juzaioba. Both of the brothers were happy she was hot after all, but Sero went on to reveal that during the Age of Gods, Shu Tian was assassinated by the god of race. However, he had scattered his soul into 72 fragments so that he could one day reawaken and save the gods to incarnate the Buddha once more. But at the same time, he went on to reveal that the demon lord would begin targeting them to reawaken Shu Tian as his own servant for destroying the world. As Ryo realized they were telling the truth, he decided to give them his wand, apologizing to his brother for losing their father's gift. However, Juzaioba screamed at them for giving her a fake rod, so when Ryo wondered why she thought it was fake, the golden aura returned in his hands.
What did he say?
However, Sero revealed that the Shenjin iron would only awaken under someone with a pure heart, so Gen thought her personality was as worthless as her chest. Without any other options, she commanded Ryo to come with them if he valued his life, making Gen wonder if this was their father's plan all along, but thought it would be interesting traveling with two fairies. So as they prepared to leave their home forever, Ryo activated the compass within his wand, pointing them towards a valley in the distance, and Sero summoned their hovercraft carrier as they began their adventure. A few hours later, they began devouring all the meat on the table, but as Juzaioba asked if they were secretly African children, Gen revealed that they were only eating because they were scared of becoming flat like her. However, he told her that any size makes the wood rise, so she began begging him for his drumstick. Outside in the dreary desert, a hot chick collapsed onto the ground, and the autopilot narrowly avoided running her over before crashing in the distance. So as Gen tried seeing why they crashed, he found the chick and started running until she collapsed in his arms. But after he realized she was wounded, he decided to take another look to see how big the wound was. However, Juzaioba wouldn't allow him to bring a strange girl inside, but he wondered if she was jealous because she wasn't as flat as a cutting board. Even so, she thought something was strange that he found her in the middle of nowhere, as the hot girl was glad that Gen was falling for her trick. A few hours later, she regained consciousness, but although Gen wanted to massage her sore body, Sarah wondered who she was and how she was stabbed by a knife, so she introduced herself as Ziying, revealing that she was stabbed by a group of bandits before she could escape, and began crying as she said she was scared because she still needed to get back to the dark cave. However, Gen swore that he would protect her, since they were also heading to collect the fragment from that same cave. When she saw his wand, she was glad to have sacrificed her life for the heavenly weapon. But the cameraman also sacrificed his life to get this heavenly shot. Later that night, as Gen was having a wet dream, Ziying attempted to cast her webs towards Ryo. But as the door opened, she quickly hid her strings. From outside, Sarah was glad to have a hot body after his shower, but knew something was wrong about Ziying. So after pretending he was in the wrong room, Ziying wondered if she accidentally entered a mental asylum. By the time the morning arrived, Gen prepared to show Ziying his back-breaking moves, but she was nowhere to be found, and Gen thought that the bandits had kidnapped her again, so he swore to save her. However, when Ryo discovered she had stolen his little rod, Juzaioba lost her mind, as Ziying had finally arrived at the cave. Seeing her sister for the first time since she was kidnapped, she was shocked by the way they had tied her up, so she gave the rod to Hao Ming in exchange for Ziying, fulfilling their deal. But after untying her and walking away, an ugly loser with a massive nose who looked like he was fighting an addiction and chemotherapy at the same time blocked their way. The leader revealed that they only returned her sister, but never said she was allowed to leave. However, as she tried casting her string towards his face, it returned to bind his legs together, dragging him onto the ground and stole the rod back from him. But as Yang rushed towards her, she pretended to cast a spell to scare him off, before releasing her discharge into his mouth. So she pulled her sister away. But before reaching the entrance, Ziyang's useless axe fell down. And as the demons began getting closer, Ziying cast a web to trap them, but Hao Ming sliced it, and nearly slashed the sisters in half. When Yang wondered what she was looking for, she tried kicking him away, but he seized her leg and began spreading them apart. At the same time, Ziying dodged Hao Ming's sword and cast her web at Yang, binding him to the wall. But when Hao Ming tried cutting her in half, she turned this show from being ass to this show having ass, and tried to cast a web at his face, but he summoned rocks out of the ground to crush her body, knocking her unconscious. With Ziying too exhausted to run, Yang decided to cast a spell, and successfully trapped them inside King Kong's barrier, revealing that no one could escape from it. Outside the cave, as Sero tried finding the perfect route on his device, Gen suggested they split up before they began heading inside. But as they ran through the passages, Ryo noticed they look exactly the same, and began wondering if they were lost. However, Gen thought Ziying's scent was very close, and when they arrived at the center of the cave, they saw that Ziying has been captured, and the disgusting leader was trying to have a threesome with the two girls. At that moment, Ryo grew angry, and tried defending his crush, but Gen stopped him as the barrier vanished. Just as Koro prepared to massage her plot, Ziying cast a web that grazed his face, forcing him to back away. However, this only made him angry, and he summoned rocks out of the ground, but Xian protected her sister, and got killed after taking a fatal wound. Seeing her dying, Jen jumped to slay him, but Koro blocked his sword, making him land on the other side. As Ryo tried knocking the skinny loser's head, he dodged and smacked him away for being a weakling, and Ju Zioba blasted a hole into the cave at the same time. At the sight of Xiang's shitty face, Ju Zioba unleashed an energy blast to obliterate her, but Jen protected her, and the blast punched a hole in the cave. As she wondered if he lost his fucking mind, he tried telling her that Xiang was just a victim. However, Ryo was also bent on remaining a simp, and tried stopping her from launching another blast. At that moment, they realized that their enemies were protected by a barrier, and Sero revealed that they had obtained one of the fragments. As Koro wondered if her pent-up hormones were making her cranky, Ju Zioba grew angry at his words, and was ready to annihilate them all, but Jen stood in her way, and told Xiang to escape. As Ryo decided to help her, Chang Yu tried to stop them, but Jen threatened to slice his head off. To even up the fight, Koro decided to summon his men, and a bunch of worthless losers surrounded them. However, as they flew to attack them, Sero summoned a tornado and blew them out of the cave. Even so, Koro was determined to have his threesome, and tried trapping the girls inside a rock. But Sero summoned a wind to carry them out of the way. So as Koro flew at them with his sword, Jen blocked his attack, and Ju Zioba repelled the loser's dagger before slashing at Koro. Immediately, Sero cast a thunderbolt, and as Chang Yu tried trapping them inside a King Kong barrier, Ju Zioba punched him straight into the sky, and Sero summoned the thunder on Koro, electrocuting him in that instant. As soon as Koro was electrocuted, Jen decided to carry Xian away, hoping to get her to a safer spot, and as they walked farther away from the cave, Xian gave Ryo back his rod, apologizing for stealing it in the first place. Inside the cave, Koro appeared before Sero, and tried pounding him, but he jumped away, and unleashed his red flame, but Koro shielded it with a rock, forcing the flame to return to him. As he tried to utilize this advantage, Ju Zioba came to the rescue, and blasted Koro away. However, the dumbass just would not quit, and decided to launch rocks at them, so Sero cast a water shield, but the rocks penetrated it and forced them to jump away. Hoping to eliminate him, Ju Zioba unleashed a blast, but Koro launched a rock at it, causing it to explode. However, fragments from the energy blasted him, but he managed to summon a rock around him before destroying it. As he began saying that he was practically invincible, Sero decided to cast lightning on the water, electrocuting him instantly, and allowing Ju Zioba to blast him with enough energy to isekai his ass. So with the loser dead, the soul fragment appeared before them, and Ju Zioba claimed it, before hurrying out to meet the others. Outside the cave, as Jen thought they were finally safe, Chang Yu jumped out of the rocks, but Ryo tackled him to the ground. As Chang Yu tried to end him, Jen blocked his attack, managing to break his fall. As he revealed ghost tentacles, they began clashing once more, and he cut him up before jumping away, and nearly eliminated him with the tentacles. With Jen exhausted, Ryo tried to restrain the ugly-ass loser, but he elbowed him, and trapped Jen inside a barrier, before kicking him away for being a useless moron. Desperate to help his brother, Jen began slashing at the barrier, but Chang Yu thought the sword was familiar. Hoping to utilize his distraction, Xiang cast a web, but he slashed it, and she realized that it was all the energy she had left. In that moment, Chang Yu cast a petrification spell on Jen, turning his body into stone, and Jen realized that they were all about to get killed. So he began telling Ryo to run away while he could, because with his useless luck, he would probably just get trapped inside another barrier. However, Ryo wouldn't leave without his brother and began punching the barrier, but even with all his strength, he was still useless, so Chang Yu cast him aside. At that moment, Ryo realized he was the weakest loser in all of anime history, and began wondering if he would remain a sorry-ass loser forever and a fucking liability. Just then, his tiny rod began to arise, and as they noticed the golden light, Jen told Ryo to touch the iron. So as he did, the golden energy transformed into the staff. Immediately, he smacked the barrier and managed to break it, but as it shattered to pieces, he stumbled to the ground, and the stone flesh began to decline. Angered by the sight of him, Chang Yu kicked him away, and seized the staff, but it turned into a rod instantly. As Ryo realized his brother was finally free, he passed out at that moment. The realization made Jen angry, and he slashed Chang Yu's hand in an instant. As Jen attacked him, he tried using his ghost tentacles, but he slashed it away, and broke his barrier. At that moment, Chang Yu discovered he was just like his father, but he cast a double slash that made him lose all his strength. Realizing his act was done, he decided to reveal that his boss was searching for him, and that she would never stop until he was captured. Just then, he began hearing a mini bell, and the sound isekai'd him. With the loser dead, the second fragment emerged out of his body. That night in the car, Sarah revealed that Xian could not be healed by the immortal's magic, and Ryo felt responsible for her state, so he began running outside. When he was gone, Sero suggested that Xiang seals her sister's primordial spirit until she finds a guru that can heal her and put her into a new body. Afraid of losing her sister, Xiang agreed, so Sero cast a spell on her, and her body disintegrated into an orb, before entering Xiang's ring. At that moment, Xiang sensed her sister's spirit around her, and she promised to stay with her forever. Outside, Ryo began telling Jen that he was a useless weakling, and that he wasn't even deserving of having the ancient rod in the first place, since he couldn't even save anyone. However, Jen thought he was special, and told him to believe in himself, giving him back his rod. Inside the car, as the fragments entered Ryo's little rod, Sero told him that the rod was a container for the fragments, and Zioba said that he must protect it with his life. At that moment, Zing offered to join the group, saying that she has nothing better to do with her hopeless boring life, so Jen accepted her, willing to stay a worthless virgin simp forever. The following day, as they arrived at the city, Jen realized that Ryo was terribly sick from the magical weight of the rod, and wondered how they would find the Earth Sage, a spirit healer that was renowned for making spirit medicines. At that moment, Zing appeared, hot from the summer heat, and Jen forgot his brother like every other worthless loser. As they arrived at a clothing shop, Jen wondered how Ryo would get treatment here, but Zioba decided to head inside. Inside the shop, as a disgusting fatso welcomed them, he tried telling Zioba that they don't sell boys' clothes, but she screamed at him to open his f***ing eyes. As he realized who they were, he noticed Zing, and tried offering her his best bikini to support her beautiful massive cannons. But Zioba punched the shit out of him. So as he returned to his senses, he began telling them that the lower realm has been in chaos since the celestial realm was sealed up, and that no immortals have visited the store in years. As he pulled a toy, the shop transformed into a medicine store. When he wondered why they came, Zioba demanded for senzu beans, so as he removed it from the bottle, she snatched it, and dumped it inside Ryo's mouth, nearly choking the poor kid. Just then, Zioba wondered why the industrial furnace was open, realizing it made the city as hot as hellfire. So Earth Sage began telling them that a huge meteorite fell into the city over 100 years ago, and that it crashed on the former industrial furnace. Ever since, every day has been summer in the city, and the meteorite became the new industrial furnace, giving continued heat to the city. When Sarah wondered why they weren't trying to cool it down, the man revealed that the territory was now occupied by Evil Cloud, the ruler of the city and boss of the demon clan. To figure out a plan, Sero told Ryo to create a signal with his rod, so he began spinning it, sending energy waves across the shop. As Sero noticed the meteorite awakening, he realized that another fragment was within the territory. Just then, Ryo's rod fell off, and they discovered that it had broken from the necklace. As Zioba began heading for the meteorite, Jen offered to support them, and told Zing to protect Ryo in the meantime. Before long, they arrived inside the territory, and they realized that the building was filled with security. As Zioba wondered if they could sneak inside, Jen slashed a hole into the wall, and over 100 security rushed towards the entrance. Meanwhile in the shop, Ryo remained sick, but inside of his spiritual realm, the god of war began slaying the demons, until the demon lord stabbed him in the back, dispelling his body into fragments that appeared before Ryo. When he tried taking one of them, Koro's spirit appeared before him, saying that the demonic energy was exactly what he needs to go from being a worthless loser to the most powerful demon lord ever. Right then, Chang Yu appeared, saying that he has nothing to lose because he was already a loser, and that everyone would eventually dump him because he was too useless anyway. However, Ryo said that he doesn't need the demon power, and at that moment, his rod began to shine a golden light, with an immense energy destroying the ground underneath him. As he began hearing the god of war, the voice told him that his primordial spirit would stay with him forever. But as Ryo regained consciousness, he wondered why Zing's melons were right in his face, and began blushing because he was too close to his crush. As the stick fell out of his pocket, Zing snatched it, and hurried